Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. So far in this series, we've looked at my Getting Stuff Done system, and then we've also taken a look at the collect, the think, the plan, and the action phases. Today, we're going to move on to the next phase, and that's about reviewing what you've been doing so you can use that to improve the way that you're working. So join me now, and we'll jump in and discuss this area. The review phase. It's not about going over what you've done. It's not about rereading your work. It's about taking a little bit of time to analyse what happened, look at what went well, look at what went wrong, look at what you can improve. It's all about learning and then applying those lessons to your future activities. We also spend a little bit of time in this phase looking at your action management system. And that, it's all about making sure that things are moving forward. The output from this phase, well, that actually then feeds back into the collect phase, and we start the loop all over again. I've split this phase into two stages. The first one I call improve. That's about looking at what's happened and how can we improve what we're doing. The second stage, I call that monitor, and that's checking in with our action management system to make sure that everything's still valid. Now this phase, I tend to do it near the end of the day because that lets me spend a few minutes just to reflect on what's happened. It might be a good time to actually journal. Then you're jotting down your learnings rather than trying to keep them in your head. But the key thing is you need to do it at least once a day. And sometimes you may even do it more frequently. If you've had maybe a piece of work that's taken a couple of work blocks, you might actually spend a few minutes at the end of the second work block jotting down your learnings. If you encountered some major issues going through a work block, capture those thoughts there and then. Just capture them onto some sticky notes. Make a note in your collect system. Doesn't have to be anything too detailed. It just needs to be enough that will kick your thinking when you come to actually review it. It just needs to be enough that it kicks your thoughts when you come to think about it. The first stage, improve. Well, this stage, to me, it's a crucial one, but a lot of people, they never do it. They go ahead, they do the work, they spend lots of time, and they get really good results from that, but they never capture what they've learned. They've never captured what went wrong. They've never captured what went really well. If you spend a few minutes to reflect and capture these, well, that's all about improving what you're doing going forward. You might be able to save time, you might be able to save effort in the future just by spending that little bit of time now to put down your learnings. If we don't write them down, if we don't capture them, we forget them. It's just human nature, that's what happens. If we forget them, we do not improve what we're doing. Every time you miss out on one of these opportunities, you're missing out on ways to simplify your life. Here's an example. You're really busy. You were updating a sales spreadsheet. You found a new formula, a new way of doing things that made it an awful lot easier and quicker for you to create that spreadsheet. You need to make sure you capture this, record what it was, so that next time you come to do a sheet very similar, well, you know what to do already. You can just go and look at your notes and it tells you the exact steps to take. You don't need to spend the time repeating the research. You can go in and start getting that benefit straight away. Here's another example. When you were in the thinking stage, you estimated that a piece of work would take you 30 minutes. When you got down to it though, you found it was more involved and instead it took you an hour. That's put you behind for the whole day. Capture this, and that means next time that you're estimating a similar piece of work, you'll use that new estimate of 1 hour. It will let you improve your scheduling and improve the results you get going forward. It's so easy to be busy that we don't record these things. I know, I've been there. I know what it's like. Try and force yourself. Just spend that 5, maybe 10 minutes to reflect, to think about it, to note it down and get it into your collect system. With this improve phase, what I try to aim for is to improve at least one thing every day. And it doesn't have to be something that's big, because if you make a lot of small improvements, they're going to very quickly add up. Let's say you improve one thing a day. After a year, you've made 365 improvements. Just imagine that. You've changed the way you work, you've changed the way you live, by making a small change every day. Here I've said after a year, you don't need to wait that long. Chances are, after the first month, maybe even the first week, you'll start to see some improvements. Here's some strategies that you can use in this stage. Update processes. This is about thinking about the way you're doing things and can you improve them. You could possibly create a checklist, or if you've already got a checklist, you could update it with some simpler steps or even some simpler language. So the next time that you come up with a similar action, the next time you're going to be using that checklist, you've already got some predefined instructions. Doing this, it saves you time because you don't need to go out and research. You don't need to try and remember what to do. You've got your instructions there. You've got the process to follow. You may identify something that you can turn into an automation. One of my examples, I used to collect some data every day. It took me about 3 minutes. I was able to automate that. I spent about half an hour automating it. But now I click a button, it goes away, and it does all that in under 10 seconds. I'm saving time every day. Yes, I know, only 3 minutes, but a lot of 3 minutes soon add up. As part of updating the processes, you may actually find some steps that you can delegate. Remember, if you delegate something, it's off your list, it's onto somebody else's, they do the work for you. You may also be able to identify things that will help to make things easier. Maybe you need to get a piece of equipment or get something fixed. Or maybe even you might need to be in a different location. By looking at your processes, looking at what you do, where you do it, how you do it, that's how you can identify and make improvements. The next strategy, document the issues that you encountered. I don't know about you, but every day I find something that doesn't work how I expected. Something goes wrong. I work out how to fix it. I do that. But then do I spend the time to record that for the future? To be honest, a lot of the time you don't. When something goes wrong, once you've worked out the fix, document it, write it down, get it into your collect phase. If you don't document it, you'll forget it. As I've said, I do this at least once a day and more frequent if I hit problems I need to make sure I'm recording. Just get your thoughts down onto paper. You don't need to make the change now. All we're doing is recording it. We're getting it into the collect phase, and that's where it goes back into the cycle. You then think about it, you plan what you want to do, then you action it. Very similar, capture thoughts that are generated. Quite often when you're working, you'll get something jumps into your head and you think, oh, I need to remember that, and then you carry on, you don't do anything about it. If you think about something, write it down. You will not forget something that's written down. It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how trivial it seems. Capture it, put it into collect. When you do your next iteration around the cycle, you may look at that thought and you may think, I'm not really interested in that, that's not going to add value. Well, throw it out, it doesn't matter. If you haven't collected it, if you haven't thought about it, you can never make that decision as to whether it will add value or not. And I find with all my thoughts, 80% of them I'll throw away in the think phase, but that 20%, they're what leads you to improving what you're doing. You do not get the opportunity to change things if you haven't collected it and thought about it. Our final strategy that we're going to talk about in this stage is learn from the past, don't relive it. I mean, what more is there to say really? We need to make sure we're learning all the time. We need to make sure we're not repeating mistakes. Now, I don't want you to think that this is something negative. I know I've used that word mistake. We're not really correcting the mistakes. What we're doing is thinking about it as learning what works well and then how to move towards that end solution. The second stage in here is monitor. And this stage, it's all really aimed about checking what's going on in your action management system. One of the things that I find during the day is I actually do a lot of things. Some of these are planned, some of them weren't. A lot of them, they're in my action management system and I don't go in after doing them and take them off. In one respect, I think it's a waste of time to be constantly jumping in and updating the action management system. You want to be doing work, not managing it. And that's what the management system is there for. It's managing your work. So we've got an action, which is to write a report. In our system, we've also got actions to send the report to your boss, print it off, file a draft, loads of different actions which are dependent on writing that report. You've had a really good morning. You've written the report. You've also sent it off. You've printed it. You've filed it, but you didn't go into your action management system at the time of doing it. End of the day, when we're doing our review, you're then going through and you're seeing, write the report, I can tick that off. Oh, I've also done this, and this, and you can tick all those off in one go. The key message here, the action management system, it's there to enable you to work. It's not there as an excuse not to work. Some strategies in here. Ask yourself, what are the next actions? When you're looking at your action management system, when you're looking at the projects that are in there, always ask yourself, what is the next action that I need to take to achieve this? It could be something like book a meeting room, or chase up my boss for feedback, make a phone call to a client. There's loads and loads of next actions. The key here is to spend them few seconds and determine what is the next action that needs to be taken and make sure it's documented and it's up there for you to do. Here's an example. You've got an action and it says, on Wednesday, I need to chase my boss up. Today, it's Tuesday. You don't need to do anything. You've got the action there. It's in your system, but today's Tuesday. You don't need to worry about it. The evening and the night, it runs away. You come to look at your action management system on Wednesday morning. It says, in the project X, chase up my boss. You now know you can do it. So what do? You go and speak to your boss about it. You've identified the next action. You've identified when you need to do it. You've identified it's available to be done, and you've done it. Identifying and working on next actions, that's the biggest key to improving your productivity. Next, we ask ourselves, are there any new projects or actions? Is there something that you've done during the day that's generated a new project? You would have captured that as part of your review, remember, so by now you should have it in your collect phase. But quite often, we don't do that. Think about what you've done. Do any of them open up new actions? Do any of them open up new projects? Make sure you record it. If you get an idea during the day, as we previously said, write it down. Spend a little bit of time in the review phase to clarify your thoughts, just to give some brief thinking about any notes that you've made yourself. That allows you to fill them out so that when you come into the collect phase, you've got enough to make a valid decision about. If you don't think about things in a timely manner, well, they'll disappear from your brain. Get the thought into the collect phase so then you'll be able to think about it more, come up with a plan to achieve it, and have actions that you can take. Have you started some new projects? If you start something new, get the details into your system. You may want to create an item in the collect phase to expand on the project, to do some project planning, to plan out the actions. Have you got a set of processes that you use when you're starting a new project? Get it into the collect phase to kick that process going. So use this opportunity to think about, what have I just started? What do I need to do? Have I already defined it? Once you get this into the collect phase, you're then moving into the think phase, and again, you may end up discarding the idea. You may discard the project. But if you don't capture the initial thoughts you have about the project, you're never going to action them anyway. What projects have you finished? Now, I don't know about you, but every day I finish a number of projects. Yes, most of them are fairly small. We've done the work. We want to be able to document it, capture what we've learned, and forget about it. If we've got entries in our action management system, we need to just finish them off, don't we? We need to get them out of there. We've already finished the project. Can we tick them all off? Does this trigger some tasks to do to properly close down the project? This is where the value of the action management system comes in, and the value of checking it to make sure everything's correct. Don't clutter your system up with things that you no longer need. Once it's complete, get it out of the way. The only things that you want to see in your action management system, they're things that you can actually do something about. So in summary, this review phase, it's often overlooked. We use this phase to help us to identify things that we can improve and to update our action management system so there's only things in there that we can actually perform actions on. We use it to identify what can be done and allow that to help us to move forward. We also use it to capture new projects, new ideas, but also to identify when a project's finished and to get it out of our system, to get it off our mind. In this review phase, it's not about making the changes here and now. It's about doing the thinking. It's about reflecting on what's happened and capturing those thoughts, those ideas into our system. Once it's in the system, it's easy to make the system work for you rather than you working for the system. In the next video, we're going to touch on the final phase of the system, and that's all about accountability. What do you currently do to review your work? Is it something you do maybe once in a while? Is it something you do every day? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.